They didn't come for our resources, not our oceans, not our minerals, not even our technology. No, they came for our silence the day they arrived. The sky fractured like glass burning with a violet hue no telescope had ever predicted. The broadcasts fizzled out mid-sentence. Governments vanished in minutes. No warning, no ultimatum, just sudden, absolute silence. Entire cities turned to ash as if they had offended some unseen god. I was in the ruins of Shanghai when the last human voice was silenced on global comms. After that, only the drones remained hovering, sentinels of the Galactic Union. They called it ascension. We were told, via sterile audio relays, that our species had been liberated from chaos, that our wars, our music, our unpredictable beauty had been noted and judged, incompatible with harmony. Humanity's reward for its passion? Erasure. The Galactic Union had existed for thousands of years before it noticed us. A web of peaceful, ordered civilizations operating under one rule: eliminate emotional dissonance. For the Union, individuality was dangerous, emotion was disease, and among all the races they'd peacefully harmonized, humanity stood out. Like a wildfire in a garden of ash. Earth was wiped clean in days. Those who resisted were vaporized, those captured, converted. They were sterilized of thought and emotion, uploaded into the Union's great memory, transformed into polite echoes of who they once were. The Union didn't wage war. It didn't conquer, it simply absorbed. I survived, though I still don't know why. Maybe I was missed. Maybe they didn't consider me important enough to track. Or maybe, just maybe, someone in their ranks wanted a seed of humanity to remain, a reminder of what they had destroyed. For years, I wandered the bones of Earth, deserted cities, cracked monuments, echoes of laughter trapped in the static of broken devices. I buried names no one would remember. I screamed into the void, and it never screamed back. Then I found the ship. It was a Scout-class interceptor, damaged and forgotten in a collapsed orbital facility above what used to be Madagascar. I nearly died powering it on, but when I did, something changed. In the Union's archive logs, there was a transmission buried and encrypted. A single word, alive, a detention vault, buried deep within the core of Solaris Prime, the shining heart of the Union. According to the recovered file, inside was one listing: Subject 6X2001, Homo sapiens, female, status, pending harmonization. A prisoner, the last prisoner. She wasn't converted, she wasn't erased. She was still alive, still untouched, still human. Something inside me rusted and dormant ignited. I had no army, no crew, no allies, just a broken ship, a name I hadn't used in years, and the ghost of one last voice in the dark. So I left what remained of Earth behind and set a course for the Union's throne world. For the first time in a decade, the silence between stars felt afraid. Solaris Prime was more than a capital. It was a cathedral to control, a glittering monument to obedience, orbiting a blue dwarf star. Its surface was wrapped in crystalline spires and perfect, ordered lanes. Every inch was surveilled, every breath monitored. Harmony beacons pulsed across the sky, broadcasting ultrasonic control frequencies that kept most species docile, sedated, forgetful. It was beautiful the way a cage is polished, a prison with shine. I approached in the carcass of a dying mining drone, its heat signature blending with my ship's old interceptor shell. The Union's arrogance protected me after all. No species had ever resisted infiltration. None had tried. Why would they? Every rebellion before us had ended in quiet compliance. But we weren't most species. The vaults lay beneath the Harmony Citadel, the tallest structure on the planet, built atop a mountain of repurposed memory. Buried deep in its foundations were the Union's darkest secrets and their most dangerous prisoners. It took 3 days of scanning, planning, and hiding among orbital refuse to locate a viable entry path. My stolen ship still carried Union code fragments enough to decode their patrol schedules, map their blind zones, and identify weaknesses in their central harmonizer web. For 3 more days, I rewired my ship's backup core into a makeshift EMP charge strong enough to fry harmonizers within a 200-meter radius. It would give me 12 minutes. No backup, No exit strategy. Just me. The Sentinels came first. Not guards machines. Inhuman, unblinking, tireless. Their limbs moved with a weightless elegance. Like liquid chrome held together by hunger, they patrolled the inner ring of the vaults, connected to a central AI that tracked anomalies before they happened. I slipped past them using heat dampeners and shadow. No sound, no mistakes. Inside, the cells weren't cells, not by human standards. They were memory tanks, vertical sarcophagi filled with cerulean fluid, designed to sedate, preserve, and eventually upload prisoners into the Union's shared stream, a hive mind paradise, they called it. A system where free will was optional, personality, a file to be rewritten. Most prisoners floated motionless, already erased, their thoughts no longer their own. But not Subject 6X-0001. Not her. She was at the vault's core, alone, encased in clear alloy. Tubes snaked from her spine. Her hands twitched. Her eyes fluttered behind closed lids, caught in some half-dream. She was still resisting, still dreaming, still Amara. Not a designation, a name. The EMP detonated like a supernova. Lights died. Harmonizers screamed static. Sentinel routines stuttered as their network fractured. I had 12 minutes. I raced to her pod, smashing the control lock with the back of my pulse rifle. The seals broke. Fluid hissed, and she fell suddenly, shockingly real into my arms. Her pulse was weak, breathing shallow, but she was alive. Then the alarms returned. Too fast. I carried her toward the outer lift shaft, but by the time we reached it, the Sentinels had already raced. They dropped from the ceiling like silver knives, cutting through the corridor with terrifying silence. One raised an arm, light shimmered. A harmonic pulse fired like lightning. I ducked. The blast missed my skull by inches, but vaporized the wall behind me. I shoved a sidearm into her trembling hand. "Can you shoot?" Her voice was a whisper, cracked from years in suspension, but unbroken. "Try me." We fought like ghosts in a temple that had never known chaos. Her shots were wild at first, then deadly. When the first sentinel fell in a shower of sparks, I saw something return to her eyes. Focus, rage, fire. We moved fast, disabling harmonizer nodes as we ran, slipping past lockdown doors before they sealed, fighting every step through the sterile halls of the world that had tried to rewrite her. In a final desperate sprint, we reached the outer bay just as my ship's AI broke through the jammers. The bay doors cracked open. Vacuum pressure surged, dragging sentinels and furniture into space. I grabbed her waist, fired a grappling tether into the void, and launched. We spun wildly, no control, no air, no promise of survival. And then impact. The ship caught us. Inside, oxygen rushed back. Lights flickered. I tore off my helmet and dropped to my knees, panting. Amara collapsed next to me, her breathing ragged, her frame trembling, but alive. She looked at me with hollow, confused eyes. "You came for me," she said. I nodded. "Always." She smiled, just a flicker. "But enough. I thought I was the last," she whispered. I shook my head. "You were the first. We didn't return to Earth. Not yet." There was no Earth to return to, but the voice that had sparked a rebellion, the heart of the first strike. The name etched in every rebel's mind was no longer a myth. She was here. She was Amara, and she had survived the worst thing the Union could do. They tried to erase her. They failed. She remembered. And now, so would the stars. And that's when I realized saving her was only the beginning. The Union knew now. They had failed to erase their greatest threat. Not a weapon, not a fleet, but a memory, a voice, a human they couldn't rewrite. They would come, and this time, we would be ready. The stars outside the viewport looked colder than ever. Not just distant, but watchful, as if the galaxy itself was waiting to see what we'd do next. Amara sat in the co-pilot seat, shoulders hunched, wrapped in a thin emergency thermal blanket. She hadn't said much since we escaped the vault, but I could feel her thoughts racing, processing everything. 10 years suspended in fluid, dissected like data, measured, monitored, studied like some infection. And yet, she'd survived. No, more than that. She'd endured without breaking. She wasn't just a survivor. She was a symbol, the last human they couldn't convert. And now, she was free. We drifted, silent in the shadow of a dead moonet's orbit just beyond the Union's central communication net. No heat signature, no emissions, no digital presence. In the eyes of the Union, we didn't exist. For now, we were ghosts. I was patching together a wideband signal relay from salvaged drone tech when she finally spoke. "They're going to erase Earth, aren't they?" Her voice wasn't hollow anymore. It carried weight. "They've already started," I said, not sugarcoating it. Cities leveled, vaults expanded, propaganda flooding every broadcast band. They want Earth to become a myth, a mistake. She nodded, jaw clenched. "Then we need to give humanity a reason to remember who they are." I paused. Not long ago, she was half conscious in a fluid tank. Now she sat like a commander, a leader. I recorded everything. I told her, the vault, the sentinels, your escape, even the prisoner logs, names, locations, files. If we broadcast this, the Union can't bury it fast enough. She turned toward me, eyes sharp. "We light the fire," I continued. "All the lost ones, refugees, scattered enclaves, detention survivors, they'll see it. And maybe, just maybe, they'll rise." She finished. I nodded. We had no weapons, no fleet, no funding. But we had something stronger. The truth. And humanity had always known how to wield that better than any species in the stars. I initiated the upload, masked the signal through ancient subspace nodes buried in forgotten corners of the galaxy beacons. From wars the Union had declared irrelevant. Then I tied our broadcast to every obsolete relay, dormant comms dish, and scavenger satellite they'd stopped monitoring. The message wasn't long. It didn't need to be. It began with silent footage, row upon row of memory tanks, human bodies, suspended in blue fluid, their identities stripped, their designations etched into steel. Then the breach, her capsule opening, the first breath she took as a free woman. The firefight in the hall, the sentinels falling. And finally, a shot of Amara, standing tall on the bridge, hair damp, blood on her temple, eyes locked on the camera. She said 8 words, words that would ripple across systems like a gravitational shockwave. "My name is Amara, and I remember Earth." I launched the broadcast. It slipped into the dark. There were no explosions, no sirens. Just a tremor, a quiet shift that rippled across the galaxy's neural spine, like a sound too low to hear, but too deep to ignore. Then came the whispers. An asteroid mining team in the core system shut down their overseer drones and vanished into the belt, taking their entire rig into the shadows. Gone, no trace, no signal. Only a single scrawled phrase left in their final transmission. "We remember." A slave barge in Orion Gulch self-destructed, but not before launching every enslaved human aboard. In coordinated escape pods, they broadcast their coordinates across every rebel channel they could reach, screaming freedom as their ship burned behind them. And on colony moons the Union had long declared harmonized, something strange began to happen. From hidden transmitters, forgotten intercoms, and abandoned PA systems came the songs of Earth. Not propaganda, not signals, but music. Old war songs, battle hymns, lullabies once banned, smuggled voices of resistance, echoes of a culture the Union swore had erased. Then came silence, not the dead kind, the loaded kind, the kind that builds before something shatters. And shatter it did. The Union retaliated fast. Crackdowns, system-wide sweeps, neural reconditioning waves designed to flush out rebellion. But for every colony they silenced, 2 more lit up. For every insurgent they eliminated, 5 more rose in their place. And everywhere, across walls and hacked broadcasts, in alien markets and burnt-out courtyards, 3 letters appeared: HFY. Humanity, FK. A meme. A message, a roar wrapped in sarcasm and grit. It started as underground slang, graffiti, digital taglines whispered in encrypted feeds. But it didn't stay small. It became a rallying cry. Because we had been dissected, imprisoned, labeled, and logged like a virus to be studied. They took our planet, buried our history, tried to code over our memories. But they had forgotten the one thing that made us truly human. We don't kneel. This wasn't a rescue mission anymore. It was a movement. We weren't the strongest species, not the fastest, not the most advanced. But we carried something the Union couldn't quantify: rage wrapped in memory, loyalty forged in fire, defiance beaten into our DNA. We learned from scars. We adapted from pain. And now we were coming back, not to escape, to reclaim. This was how the spark began. This was how the fire rose. This was how humanity remembered. We didn't just fade into shadows. We thrived in them. Humanity evolved not by building new cities or carving borders, but by forging legacies in derelict stations and decaying outposts, in the forgotten corners of irradiated moons, in deep tunnels beneath collapsed colonies. We found shelter in the places the Union deemed worthless, and we rewrote what it meant to survive. Our scientists returned, not the state-funded kind, but the ones who had once reprogrammed DNA with bootleg biotech, the old AI whisperers, the rogue engineers, the dreamers who'd been hunted into extinction. They emerged from hiding with one shared purpose: not just to survive, to surpass. Amara, the girl who had endured 10 years in a Union memory tank, became more than a symbol. She became a template. Her blood, corrupted and modified by a decade of alien research, now held properties the Union had failed to understand: accelerated neural reflexes, adaptive cellular regeneration, immunity to the harmonizer frequencies that once enslaved entire species. The Union had tried to erase her. Instead, they had unknowingly built our weapon. While they hunted rebels, we rebuilt networks. We stopped using Union lanes, stopped relying on their tech. We built ships that didn't follow their rules, vessels that slipped through subspace like blades between ribs, silent, sharp, untraceable. Our operatives stopped calling themselves rebels. They became archivists, but not to preserve the past, to rewrite the future. With every raid, every transmission, every hacked broadcast, more humans woke up. And more importantly, more aliens joined us. Because we weren't the first to suffer under the Union, just the loudest. The Union, cloaked in promises of peace and unity, had been bleeding civilizations for centuries. They enslaved species with bureaucracy, controlled planets through frequency harmonics and cultural sterilization. Entire histories had been deleted, generations of voices silenced. The Union didn't rule with weapons, it ruled with forgetting. But when they saw us rise from the ashes, scarred, furious, alive, they remembered. They remembered what rebellion looked like. The silent ones began speaking. The broken ones began building. We didn't form governments. We formed cells. No leaders, no central structure, only one mission: make the Union remember what it means to fear. And beneath it all, the flame of Amara's defiance continued to burn. Her broadcast had become more than a symbol. It was a signal, a spark. It opened the floodgates of every suppressed memory across the galaxy. A whisper echoed in every back alley meeting, every encrypted transmission, every stolen Union terminal: my name is Amara, and I remember Earth. It wasn't just nostalgia. It was resistance. The Union doubled their efforts. They created new propaganda, painted us as terrorists, virus carriers, subspecies incapable of harmony. But even their lies grew brittle. Their soldiers hesitated. Their allies looked twice, because they had seen the footage, because they heard the songs, and because, in the deepest part of themselves, even the most obedient beings couldn't help but ask, what if the humans are right? What if the price of harmony was freedom? And what if memory, no matter how suppressed, could never be truly killed? This is how the fire began. Not with a fleet, not with a bomb, but with a voice, a memory. A girl ripped from her people and turned into a prototype who came back not as a victim, but as a beacon. The Union called it disorder. The galaxy called it truth. And in the shadows of broken worlds and abandoned stars, 1,000 sparks lit 1,000 more. Because in the cold dark between galaxies, when the silence feels eternal, humans light fires, and fires spread. They remembered the value of fire. The spark started small. A few scattered survivors, hidden bunkers, quiet acts of sabotage. Then the archivists, rogue data miners, ex-Union scientists, and AI defectors began recruiting alien sympathizers. We started trading stories, sharing pain, stealing knowledge we were never meant to understand. Within 5 years of Amara's escape from Union custody, The first true human fleet emerged from the void. It wasn't massive, it wasn't sleek, it didn't shimmer with the chrome perfection of Union design, but it was deadly, built in asteroid refineries and hollow moons. Our ships didn't wear insignias, they wore scars. And they weren't designed to protect, they were designed to punish. And punish we did. We called it the First Strike. The Union called it terrorism. But it wasn't a planet-wide invasion. We weren't interested in reclaiming Earth. Not yet. This wasn't about land. It was about blood, about memory. We wanted the Union to feel fear, the kind that lingers in systems, in code, in whispers. Our target, a deep space Union archive station, buried in orbit around a dying neutron star. One of their most secure data banks. Inside, the truth, records of every human extracted, experimented on, or eliminated since Earth's fall. Names, coordinates, secret trials, forgotten moons. Every dirty secret they thought they'd buried under dying suns. We didn't request permission. We crashed a starship into it. The attack was surgical, ghost silent. We came armed with stealth drives, plasma cutters, EMP harpoons, and old-fashioned human audacity. Amara, our ghost, our flame, led the breach herself. No one expected a primitive to outmaneuver synthetic command drones, but she did. She moved through that station like vengeance incarnate. No wasted shots, no mercy. And when the mainframe cracked open, we didn't just steal data, we broadcasted it. Across Union networks, across their military frequencies, across every civilian feed in the galaxy. Every atrocity they had hidden behind the polished veneer of peace exploded into public view. The universe didn't gasp. It growled. Because in those files were horrors no one, not even their own allies, knew about. War crimes buried beneath decades of redacted reports, biological betrayals, unauthorized experiments, cultural erasures, lies stacked upon lies, held together by silence. The archive station didn't survive. Neither did most of the squad that breached it. Only Amara made it out. She didn't speak for 3 days. Not during extraction, not during debrief, just silence. And then, on the 3rd day, she whispered one sentence, one that now echoes across rebel strongholds, scrawled on stolen Union comms towers, whispered by children in hushed defiance, burned into orbital graffiti drones spinning over occupied worlds. The stars will remember us. That was the day the galaxy changed. That was the day the Union lost its mask. In the weeks that followed, rebellions erupted across Union territory, not just from humans but from every species they'd ever oppressed. The ones they thought were broken, the ones they thought were loyal, the ones who had forgotten what fire tasted like until Earth reminded them. The Union responded with precision and fury. Entire human enclaves were reduced to ash. Our allies were sanctioned. Systems once vibrant were cut off, cast into darkness. Starports shuttered. Planetary internments spiked. But it was too late. Something had shifted. For every rebel ship they destroyed, 3 more were built. For every transmission they jammed, a dozen backdoor signals sprang up. For every name they tried to erase, 1,000 others rose in their place. We weren't fighting for planets anymore. We were fighting for truth, for memory, for the right to tell our story in the stars. Humanity had always been underestimated. Too volatile, too emotional, too irrational. But what the Union called instability was actually our edge. It's what helped us survive plagues, famines, and genocides. It's why we endured extinction events. Why we once turned stone tools into satellites. It's why we outlived every prediction of our end. Because when hope runs thin, when the void closes in, humans light fires, and fires spread. The war hasn't ended. It's only evolved. Our fleet is still small compared to theirs. But now we have blueprints we were never supposed to see. Engineers they cast out. AI companions who chose freedom over code. Soldiers who fight not for orders but for meaning. We don't fly flags. We fly symbols etched in ash and steel. We don't have national anthems. We have old songs, sung in a dozen tongues, echoing through vacuum-sealed corridors. And Amara, she's more than a soldier now. She's a myth, a symbol of the flame that refuses to die. She speaks rarely, but when she does, her voice ignites systems we still lose. people, every mission, every drop. This fight is not clean. It's not cinematic. It's ugly. It hurts. But we endure because someone has to stand at the edge of the dark and say no more. Someone has to remember the names, the faces, the cultures. The Union tried to erase, the children they stole, the languages they deleted from databanks. And someone has to tell them, we're still here. So no, we're not stronger than the Union. We're not faster, not smarter, not richer, but we are more dangerous because in the cold silence between the stars, we bring heat. Because when our enemies look into the abyss, we are the spark they fear because we don't just fight for Earth. We fight for every planet that dreams of freedom, for every prisoner who learned to breathe fire instead of air, for every ancestor whose name was stolen from the archives. We fight, not to win, but to remember. And no matter how long it takes, even if it's 100 years from now, this galaxy will speak our names. The Union may hold systems, they may hold fleets, they may hold titles, but they do not hold the truth. We do. And one day, the stars won't just remember us, they'll follow us.